Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Jimmy with One Road, and today we're going to be replacing a wiper motor pulse board on my 2003 Chevrolet Suburban. The other day, I was driving in my Suburban, it was raining outside, everything was fine, windshield wipers were going, and all of a sudden I noticed them kind of hesitate and then just start going full speed. And I'm like, what in the world? So I attempted to switch off the wiper blades, and of course, that did nothing. The speed change did nothing, turning them off did nothing. They were just stuck on, essentially not the highest speed, but full speed until I got to my destination. In the side of the dash, there's a fuse panel. I checked all the fuses there, and there wasn't any that were burnt out, no wiper motor fuses or anything like that were burnt out. I also checked the fuse box under the hood, and there were no fuses burnt out, no relays that weren't working or anything like that. That brought me to the conclusion that, hey, it must be the pulse board attached to the motor. So that's the part we're gonna be changing today. Okay, so the first step in this whole process is going to be to remove these 4 clips. There's these little black clips here that basically just slide right off. All you'll need for that is a flathead screwdriver. Once you remove those 4 clips, you're going to remove the 2 end caps. There should just be a little slot down there. And apparently this driver's side one is actually able to be completely removed, whereas the passenger side one is just kind of lifted up and out of the way. And as a side note, you might need a stick of super glue to be able to glue the clip back in place. I just snapped mine. Mine are very brittle for some reason. So what I'm gonna do is attempt to leave these on and see if I can get through the job without removing these, just so I don't break any more clips. What we're attempting to do here is remove this piece of trim. And you can see that by removing the clips, it's pretty loose. But what's holding it together are the wiper arms. So those are the next thing to go. You're gonna wanna remove these plastic caps to get to the nut that needs to come off. This nut is 13 millimeters. So if you can tell there, they did use some blue thread locker, so you're just going to want to keep that in mind when you're putting it all back together. I am going to be using some penetrant in order to get the wiper blade or wiper arm to slide off the nut there, the bolt. So after spraying the penetrant there, what you're going to want to do is on this joint here, you're just gonna press down over and over and over until you feel it pop loose. Once this thing starts moving like that, then you know that it's ready to be popped off and the whole wiper arm assembly can be removed. And you can see the teeth on that little nub there sticking out. So it's gonna be a little bit of a trick, I'm assuming, to put this thing back together exactly the way it came out. At this point, we've removed both wiper arms and we're ready to lift up this piece of trim here. Just carefully lift it up out of the way. One more thing to note is the little torque screw that's down there. You're going to want to remove those too. There's one on each side. The next thing you're going to want to do is to support this piece of trim. I used a wire brush, as you can see, but anything you have will work. Just get it up and out of the way. This is the actual pulse board that we're going to be replacing. And as you can see, there's more torque screws. There's one there, and I think one more somewhere else there. They are a T20 Torx bit. All right, so forgive me, I jumped ahead one step. You're actually going to want to remove this panel here. There's 4 bolts. And the reason why you want to remove this panel is because there's a torque screw right underneath it there that you can't get to without this thing removed. These bolts here are a 10 millimeter, and you're going to want to use a deep socket to be able to get in there and get all 4 of these out. Once you break them loose, just remove them by hand. With that plate removed, you can now see the 3rd torque screw that you have to remove. Once you get those torque screws out, you can just go ahead and lift up on the panel here, and you're going to want to remove the electrical plug there too. All right, so here you can see the 2 pulse boards. They look pretty much identical. Obviously some of the electronics are going to be a little different, but they do look very, very similar. The one on the left obviously is the old one. The one on the right is the new one. I can't tell just by looking at it if there's anything in here that looks burnt or broken or anything like that. I have heard by reading online that sometimes there are some soldering areas that break loose. This one actually looks pretty good, so I don't really have any idea why it's failing. But hey, we have a brand new one, so let's throw it in. And here's the new one, just for comparison's sake. One last thing I'm going to do to this new unit before I complete the install is I'm going to apply some Lexel silicone all along the edge here, because I know there's supposed to be some form of gasket. So this should help seal everything off from any moisture or anything like that. All right, I've got the entire piece of black trim here installed, clips on. That little bracket that was in there is installed. Everything is now back to the way it was. And we'll go with that. The two nuts are temporarily installed on the wiper arms, and I'm gonna go ahead and get in the car and start this thing up. All right, here we go. All right, everything seems to be working. I'm going through the range of settings here. All right guys, so the job is done. Everything is working correctly, and I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed doing the work. Also, look down in the description below for links to the products that I used, including this pulse board. And also you can visit my website at www.oneroadgarage.com. As a side note, in another video, I'm gonna take apart that old pulse board and look at the back side of it to see if we can determine just what caused the problem. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.